What's up, guys? Ricky here. Do you love Most Valuable Podcasts? And are you like myself where things that you like, you just have to let people know because they've got to be on your t-shirt at all times? If you do, you're in luck because we got Most Valuable Podcast t-shirts. You've probably seen myself, Dave, Mark, Sean, Brandon. You might have seen us wearing these t-shirts in videos. The good thing is now you can get your hands on one too. How do you do so? First off, send us an email, mostvaluablepodcast@gmail.com. Give us your name, your size, your address. We will then send you an invoice through Square. That's how you'll pay for it, $22 per shirt. And then after we get the money, we will send you a great Most Valuable Podcast t-shirt for you to wear so you can tell everybody that you love listening to Most Valuable Podcast. So go check it out. The directions are also in the description. What are you waiting for? We got the shirts just for you. But Mark, let's move on. Let's transition into, I was already bringing up the Niners in the Giants segment. Let's move over. The Giants are going to, or not the Giants, the 49ers, pardon me. I'm getting a little mixed up in my head. 49ers starting Jimmy Garoppolo, or Jimmy Garoppolo, as we like to say here in Chicago. And we've got Jimmy. He's going to be starting for the 49ers. I want to ask you this. When it comes to draft position, 49ers are right there sitting at 2. They play the Bears this next week. They play the Tom Savage Houston Texans, not the Deshaun Watson, the Tom Savage Houston Texans. And then they got some tougher games between the Titans, Jaguars, and Rams. But just these next two, Bears and Texans, could Jimmy Garoppolo actually hurt the 49ers when it's all said and done?
I think he can. I mean, especially when it comes to draft, and I can talk about something else too. But we look at this season, the rest of the season.
Yeah,
you got a game against Chicago, and yes, you're going
Should
to
be
Soldier
an easy
Field.
win.
But this is a team that they're ready for the season to be over, and San Francisco is on the flip side of, we just made a quarterback change. We're ready to go forward. We got the quarterback of the future. We're ready to win some games now.
Is there any symbolism behind that his first start with the 49ers is in his hometown? Is back home in Chicago?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say symbolism, but I think it's a cute little thing. You know, it's a nice little story.
You know I'm all about those storylines, man.
His mom can go see him.
The hometown kid coming. That's what I
assume
think.
the family still lives in Arlington Heights. I'm not really sure. But I assume that they would.
I think so because because day job, college counselors, when I was at a school last year that was like Niles area, they mentioned Jimmy's brother as a coach out there.
Huh.
So they're
interesting.
They're probably still in the area.
There you go.
I was like, Jimmy Garoppolo's brother, coaching high school in the area.
What do you know? What do you know? I'm going to hang out with that guy for a little bit.
Wasn't even going to the NFL like your brother, huh?
Yeah, right.
That's what I thought in my head.
So they had this one with the Bears. You know, these are teams that are going in opposite direction trend-wise.
Could win the next two. Now, I'm not going to say should win, but could win the next two.
And to be fair, none of these are locks. Neither one of these games are locks. I mean, Chicago's a team that's pissed off because they just got destroyed against the best team in the NFL. So they might want to come back. And the Texans are a team that, yes, Savage is out there, but they can still score points.
Yeah.
You know, but these two games, they probably should win them. The only reason I think that they might not is because they're both road games. So, I don't know. We'll see. Then you got the Titans, which are, they're a really good team. You got the Jaguars, an amazing defense. And then you got the Rams that can score like nobody's business. So, you should at least win 2 games. Well, I should say you should at least win 1 game.
I don't know. You could win 3 games.
You could win all 5.
They beat the Rams. They lost to the Rams early. They should have beaten the Rams early in the year. That's what I'm thinking.
You could technically win all 5. You could win out. But you should at least win 1, and that's all that it takes to lose number 2 overall.
No, it doesn't. They need 2. You want to know why? And I just noticed this.
Why?
They have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Giants. They beat the Giants.
Yeah.
So you got to lose 2.
No, you have to lose 1 because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. Oh, no, you're right. I was thought the Giants won. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said.
Because
you're right,
49ers
they got to win 2. So beat Chicago, and that's okay as long as you lose to the Texans.
Yeah.
Or the other way.
I could
lose to Chicago, you can beat the Texans.
I'm looking at it, and I think that with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think this team wins the next 2 games at least. Because
I think so.
I mean, I look at every road game thus far for the 49ers. Every single one minus the Eagle one. You go to Seattle, you lose by 3. You go to Arizona, you lose by 3 in overtime. You go to Indy, you lose by 3 in overtime. You go to Washington, you lose by 2. Every single game except for that Eagle one, because guess what? Best team in football. Every single game but that Eagle one has been a close one.
Yeah.
But guess what? The Bears, the Texans, they're worse than the Cardinals, worse than the Colts, worse than the Seattle Seahawks. They're teams that with a Jimmy Garoppolo, because guess what? In those games, you didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo. Now with Garoppolo, I could see the Niners winning the next 2. I could even see them winning against the Rams. The only thing that's different is I think this Rams team is a little bit different of a team than they were week 3 when the Niners almost beat them on Thursday Night Football.
And something that, just because I did some research, because something didn't quite sound right, it actually, the first round is decided by strength of schedule in the draft for ties. Tiebreaker is strength of schedule, so therefore the New York Giants should actually win it. If they both only win 2 games, New York Giants currently have a higher strength of schedule.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I don't see the 49ers on here right now. That's a good sign. That means they're in the middle. So not that it really matters that much, because I do think that the draft spot is an issue, but if you're going to go off the theory that, well, they have their quarterback, New York wants a quarterback, it doesn't matter where they go. You know, they're really competing with Chicago for maybe a wide receiver, offensive line help. You know, that's more where they're competing with. And they might win enough games to get ahead of Chicago as well in the draft. They might knock themselves out of the top 5, potentially. You know, where I think the biggest issues, potentially, for the San Francisco 49ers is, one, the same thing I said last time we talked about this, is you have Jimmy Garoppolo. You have tied yourself to that quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't have the potential to draft one of these quarterbacks if you liked one of them. They might not. Lynch might have said, I don't like any of these guys. I don't want anything to do with them.
And the thing that I think looking at it is, I think John Lynch told us last year what kind of a GM he is, because he had all the power in the world to say, you know what, we're going to go at Mitchell Trubisky. We're going to take
anybody.
Mitch.
You could have went with anybody.
We're going to go and kiss some titties, and we're going to take Mitch Trubisky, and he's going to be our guy. Now, you could also say, like, maybe he wasn't in love with Trubisky. He's going to wait for
maybe
the next
he wanted
year.
Watson. Maybe he wanted Mahomes. He could have had anybody.
I think looking at hindsight, and hindsight's always 20/20, based off of the move to go and grab Jimmy Garoppolo, Lynch was a guy that always knew, I'm not going to draft a rookie quarterback. I am not going to do that. We're going to wait, and we're going to get... I don't think it was Jimmy Garoppolo at the time, but I think it was Garoppolo was on the table... Kirk Cousins is on the table, the connection with Kyle Shanahan. I believe that veteran quarterback was always on the table for John Lynch. And the reason why I think that starting, like, I get why you have to start Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Because with the injury, just by getting CJ injured in the last game and having Jimmy go out there.
Once he's out there, he stays.
It's a lot harder unless you're Nathan Peterman and you throw 5 interceptions. It's hard to go, we're not going to start him. It's so hard because then the fan base is going to go, but why? Why'd you do that? Huh? Why? And they're constantly going to ask. And I get the Bill Polian thing of once you start listening to the fans, you'll be sitting with them.
That's right.
But it's hard to sit Jimmy Garoppolo because everyone knows what he can be and who he can be and what he can bring to this team. I just think it's going to hurt the 49ers because I'm not looking at who the Niners could take at number 2. I'm looking at it. We've seen it before. John Lynch has pulled, and I said it last year, pulled the wool over the eyes of the Chicago Bears and tricked them into trading that pick, because I thought he was always going to take Solomon Thomas and didn't want Mitch Trubisky at all. He's not going to have the chance to do that again because he's going to lose that second overall pick and not have that, oh, you want this quarterback? I can get you this quarterback. Scratch my back.
He could
Scratch
still
my
have
back.
it. I think that what I'm interested...
Not if they win the next two. That's the thing. Like,
well, I don't know. It depends on where the quarterbacks go.
And
you got to wait and see the draft.
And I was wrong. With them beating the Giants, that actually helps the Giants more so than it helped the 49ers.
Oops.
But if you win the next two, that basically hurts you even more. So that's what I think is going to go down. They win the next two, and then it's like, great, we're now not the number 1, number 2 pick. And as of right now, that's where I see the quarterbacks going. But everything could change by the time we get to the draft.
I think that here's my thing where I stand on this. One, I think that John Lynch, and what I'm very interested to see with him in this coming draft, in this offseason, so far he has shown himself to be a guy who likes to make moves. A guy
Wheeler and dealer.
Yeah, a guy who wants to make a splash. And I'm going to reference Mike Florio a little bit on this one. And Mike Florio is one of the few people in the world who seems to be on my same line of thought here. I think this could be dangerous for them. This move, and I'm not completely saying what Mike Florio is saying here, but he basically said that John Lynch and the 49ers wanted to win something this season. We're not talking about the draft. This season has been horrendous. They are 1-10. They were not 1-10, obviously, when they got Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
But they had not won a single game when they had him. They wanted to win something. And the one win they could make happen was getting that quarterback for the future. And they went and they did it. The problem is they put themselves in a lose-lose, potentially, situation. Now, all of this could be for nothing because Jimmy Garoppolo could go out there and throw 10 touchdowns. You know? Calm down, comment section. He could go out there and be the next Tom Brady, the next Peyton. You make your pick. He could be fucking amazing. Now, let's say he's not. You put yourself in a lose-lose situation. Now, I'm not even saying it has to be terrible, but the 49ers went out and said, we're going to franchise tag him most likely. That's a stupid thing. If you're ever in a negotiation for your salary, the one big piece of advice anyone will give you is don't talk first. When they say, what's your current salary? You probably shouldn't give it to them. Or, what are you looking for? You shouldn't say anything. You want them to say their price first because it might be higher than what you were going to say. And that's awesome. That's what the 49ers just did. They said, we will most likely franchise tag Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy says, awesome, that's my floor. If you're going to get a long-term deal done with me, or even like a shorter 2-3 year deal, it's going to be higher than that. What, 28, I think? I'm not 100% sure on what the contract would be, but I think it might be around $28 million.
I think it's an average of it deals with the top 5 salaries at your position, and then it's an average situation.
And then it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up. So they're going to put him in a really high guarantee. So he knows that's his floor. And you know what else is tricky?
This past year, the salary average, and this was for exclusive franchise players by cost, for quarterbacks for 2017, it was $21.268 million.
So closer to 22. I was a little high. The other thing it does for Jimmy is, let's say they do negotiate a deal. If I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not going to even talk to you about a deal until you give me that franchise tag, because you already told me you were going to do it. And I'll sign it immediately, and then I'll say, all right, we can get a deal done. Because I already signed the franchise tag. And the fun thing about the franchise tag, they follow you. So if San Francisco gives him this franchise tag, and let's say something happens, he ends up over in, I don't know, Arizona, Miami, take your pick, and then they franchise tag him. That's his second franchise tag. Even though it's different teams, that's his second franchise tag.
Yeah.
So it's a higher amount. So he will be of an advantage for his future career in that case. That is not a good situation, negotiation, salary-wise, for the 49ers to be. Now, they got tons of cap room. They can make it happen right now. But what gets dangerous a little bit is you've given your leverage to the quarterback.
You played your hand.
You played your hand early. And it's not necessarily a great thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing either. It could work out just fine. Jimmy Garoppolo could take a lesson out of Tom Brady's book, who he's been learning from, and say, I will take a very team-friendly deal, so that way we can go and get great weapons and we can win Super Bowls.
And that's also a thing that I'm just going to throw in there. You got to think about the agent for Jimmy Garoppolo, same agent of Tom Brady. They share an agent.
But Tom Brady's in a very different situation where Tom Brady could play for free and he's still rich.
Whereas
because
Jimmy
of Giselle.
Garoppolo still hasn't had that first big contract.
I assume Jimmy Garoppolo's not married. I don't know. And it's not even that. It's not even the big contract. It's the fact that Tom Brady's money is chump change. That's what they use for toilet paper. Giselle's the one who's making all the money in the family.
True.
Although
Tom's just got to wear the Uggs.
Tom is getting himself set up with that nice TB12 energy drinks or whatever, and his diet that he's got going on.
And I swear, wearing them Uggs.
Oh man! But like I said, it's not a bad thing, and I don't necessarily think the San Francisco 49ers hurt themselves. I think that they just made a little bit of a blunder in the way they have gone about things since, because now that he's gonna play. You do have the potential for him to go out there and not do that great of a job. And then what are your fans going to say? That's an interesting component. And you're going to really pay a guy $22 this is just coming from a fan. What a fan might say. You're really going to pay a guy $22 million when he went out there and he just threw 10 interceptions, 3 touchdowns? Not saying that's what's going to happen with Jimmy. I'm just saying you're in a weird situation for San Francisco where they have to can't hear what you're saying and just move forward with their plan no matter what.
See, and the thing is, I get the play your hand thing because I wouldn't come out and say, yeah, I'm going to franchise tag you.
A silly thing to do.
I would keep it up here and then I would basically not let you know that. However, if they do franchise tag him, it's not the end of the world for them because the thing that you can look at is basically, okay, because I go back to the trade. And what I think when the 49ers, I don't think the 49ers were sitting there going, we need to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, since week 1 going, we need to get Jimmy Garoppolo in the door.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they even thought he was an option.
I think it was basically the whole trade deadline goes around, John Lynch throws something out there, and Belichick goes, all right, talk to me. And then it's like, wait, just a second rounder? Or you might have been like, hey, how about Jimmy for a second? And Bill goes, okay.
Well, this whole trade has potential to be one of the weirdest trades in NFL history. Not really.
Because, like, for the Niners, just giving up a second rounder, it's like, sure, okay.
Potentially, that could potentially be one of the biggest NFL deals ever. You know, to just be like a second for a guy who everyone's saying is going to be the next Joe Montana. You know, next Dan Marino, take your pick.
No Super Bowls for the second one.
I know, but hey, you never know. You never know.
You know what this reminds me? This whole deal reminded me of. I was watching Shark Tank yesterday.
All right, this is gonna get weird.
And they were, it was 2 guys that were presenting it, and Mark Cuban offered them, what was it, $250,000 for 25% in their business, and the one friend goes, "How about $200,000 for 25?" And right away, Mark's like, "Deal. I'll take that one." And the friend was like, no, he's stupid. We'll take your deal.
Yeah.
But that's how I think this is, where it's like the Niners in this situation, they're Mark Cuban, where it's like, really? Yeah, of course we'll take that. And then they're like, crap, we've got Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like, it's a good thing to have, but also at the same time you're thinking, I didn't expect to have this so soon.
And I think it's just one of those weird things where it's like, for me, and like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's a great quarterback. I think he has great potential to do good things in San Francisco. We have a very limited sample size of what we can look at right now in terms of the NFL. Very limited sample size. That's why the San Francisco 49ers are doing the right thing by franchise tagging him. So that way you have a 1-year sample size. Yeah, tryout for him, essentially. It's an expensive tryout, but it works. That is the right move. I'm not saying that's not the right move. I'm just saying that it's a difficult situation for the 49ers because at any time Jimmy Garoppolo has the ability to go, yeah, I don't really want to be here. And he can walk. You know, the nice thing for San Francisco is they only used up a second-round pick for him. Not that bad. I still think that the Patriots messed this whole thing up because they didn't really expect Tom Brady to still be performing at the level he is. And they fully expected to go into the future next year with Jimmy Garoppolo.
They could have got like first rounders from Cleveland before, right?
They easily could have gotten a first round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. And they weren't willing to listen then. All of a sudden, trade deadline's coming up and shit, he's walking because Tom Brady's still here. Second, that sounds great. So this whole deal was weird to begin with. I think San Francisco just found themselves into a tricky spot that will hopefully work out fine for them because Jimmy Garoppolo should hopefully be a good quarterback.
Same thing we did with the Giants situation, we'll do with the 49ers.
Yep.
How do you see this basically from now until the end of the season, because that's when the draft order for the 49ers, however, will be wrapped up. How do you, first off, two-phase question.
Yeah.
First phase, now to the end of the regular season with the draft order, how do you see it going? And then with the pick that you think they'll get, second phase of then to the draft, what do they do with that pick? Do they make a selection or work a trade?
Well, I think that here's my thought for the season. They win against Chicago, they win against Houston, and I think that Jimmy has great games. I think he looks phenomenal. He still has not thrown an interception in the NFL, throwing good touchdowns. Maybe he throws 5, 6 total in these 2 games. The world's going crazy. Then he comes back down to earth a little bit because he's playing some good teams in Tennessee, in Jacksonville, in L.A., the Rams. So he'll come back down a little bit and things will be normal. This is a good thing for San Francisco because you had a good flash and then you had average. You had normal. That's what you want because that way you're not being, shit, now we got to sign him to a $28 million a year contract because he just went balls out and threw 20 touchdowns in these last 5 games. That's a good thing. You sign him to the franchise deal. I think that San Francisco probably goes, 3-13 at the end of the season, possibly 14-12. I'm going to stick to 3-13 with Chicago and Houston being the wins. There's a good chance they might knock themselves out of the top 5.
Just to put it this way, with 2 wins over the Bears and the Texans, they could knock themselves out of the top 5, and the top 5 would then be Browns, Giants, Broncos, Bears, and Colts. But depending on strength of schedule and the other tiebreakers, they could knock themselves to 7 and below and have Houston be that 6th spot and be ahead of them because they beat them too.
So I think it won't be a bad situation though, because so far, John Lynch has proven he's a wheeler and a dealer, and I think he's going to try and be the smartest guy in the room, and I think he's going to go and try and make deals again. I think if I were looking into a future, a magic crystal ball into the future, and I was going to pinpoint what will for sure be John Lynch's undoing, this is assuming that for sure he will have an undoing, and he's not going to just be an amazing GM. My guess right now would be the fact that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and he needs to make a deal. Because so far, that's what he's done. He's gone out there and he's done a very good job at it. But eventually, it might not always work. Anyways, I think he will do that, and I don't think the San Francisco 49ers care where they're sitting in the draft round 1. I think they're going to try and make a deal, and I think they're going to want to move back. There's a lot of holes that they can work on. And I think they'll do that. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo is an exciting person to be around. So I think that they will be an attractive spot for free agents in the offseason. So I definitely expect San Francisco can have a very good kind of, offseason going into the regular season.
Guess what I did not realize?
What?
So basically, listen to this.
All right.
Let's say in that situation, Houston does get the 6th overall pick. Because the 49ers beat them.
They traded it away?
It's the Browns. The Browns could have 2 picks in the top 6.
That'd be sexy, right?
They'd have 2 picks in the top 6, and one of them could be number 1 overall.
That would be
so
beautiful.
They could trade the number 1 overall pick and just have their 6th overall pick. Right now it's 7. And if we're going off of strength of schedule, since that's the main one, the right now it goes off of, I'm assuming, lower strength of schedule gets
Yeah.
the higher pick.
Yeah.
So if you're tied with the Giants would win that one.
Okay,
because they're at 511. The Niners are at 534, and I'm looking at tankathon.com for all this. The 49ers would have a lower one than the Bears, so you'd win that tiebreaker, but they would have also a higher one than the Texans, which would be 511. So some teams you're looking at you could be tied with.
Yeah.
I mean, really the only ones that would beat them in ties are the Giants, the Texans, and the actually Denver and the Colts would too. They have 483 and 484.
The thing that matters too is a team like Chicago has an easier schedule coming up right now. They can win games and move themselves out of the top 5, making life easier for San Francisco. Same thing with a Denver who's making some moves around now. I don't think Indianapolis is going to do anything unless they fire Chuck Pagano at the end of the season. Same thing for the, anytime a team fires a head coach and they get the interim coach, they usually get a little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
If one of these teams do that, they could knock themselves out of the top 5.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how things go. I'm going to do the same thing I asked you. I'm going to say Garoppolo knocks the 49ers out of the top 6. They're going to be 7 or 8. And the only reason why I say 7 or 8 is because I think that my top 5 as of right now will be Browns, Giants, Denver, Indy, Chicago, Houston, and then it'll either be the 49ers, or if the Jets are tied with the 49ers, the Jets would win that tiebreaker with a lower strength of schedule. So I think it's either 7 or 8 for the 49ers, and 49er fans could be sitting there going, oh, that number 2 pick, we could have traded it for a lot more than what John Lynch can wheel and deal. He might be able to shock you, but it wouldn't be the same kind of a price tag and the same kind of a sexiness to it.
You know what is
trading
a bummer?
for that number 2.
We don't get to know what the open market would have gotten for Jimmy Garoppolo.
You're talking about on draft day?
No, I'm
you
talking
talking
about in the offseason.
in free agency.
We'll never know. And that's a shame because it would have been so fascinating to know what he was price-wise
Which
valued
team might
at.
have overpaid for him?
Was he going to get a Brock Osweiler type of deal?
With
You know?
not Brock Osweiler talent, like meaning he's better than Brock Osweiler?
And he's only played like 6 games.
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler played about 6 games, I think. Very, very interesting. We'll never know.
This is where you guys come in, though. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Will Jimmy Garoppolo hurt the 49ers? How do you think it plays out from now to the end of the season? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.